Hi everybody. So in the last video you saw me hooking up the first comm antenna and wiring up the coax for it and making new doublers for both sides, which is sweet. That of course that reminds me, when I get the second comm antenna, it needs to be same as the first. So this video mainly focuses in the electrical system. Well, there's a little crack-ola for you. With the circuit panel, right? Now I know I just keep doing this thing over and over and over, but I promise you, this is the final version. Promise. So at the tail end of the last video, you saw me kind of hooking up the central audio stack, which you can kind of see a couple pieces of that in place. Everything fits. I'm amazed I was able to squeeze not only the autopilot controller and the WAS radio and audio panel and VHF comm, but also the G5, and still have room for the emergency eject handle, which I will demonstrate later. Okay, anyway, to the panel. So there you can see the you can see the original vertical piece, which is where people have been putting, fuse panels and stuff like that. And it's fine. The only problem with it is it's way in the back, and if you're not, if you're tall and you need to hunch over to, pull a breaker or something like that, it's kind of difficult to see. So I preferred to have them all on that nice big piece of angled aluminum there. So all that is a piece of 20, I want to say 24 gauge, 20 or 24 gauge, something like that. Aluminum with two bent flanges along the sides, one to stiffen it, two that will actually be an attach point for a side cover piece later that we'll be working on. And then at the top and the bottom there are bent flanges to connect to the top, where the vertical piece screws into the panel, and at the bottom where it screws into the two kind of cover holes just forward of the fuel selector. If you need to, go back and you can actually look at the site. Go back go back a couple minutes and you can actually see where that thing is set up and see what I'm talking about. So the one thing is, this is basically just a checkerboard of holes, right? And it's tough because I don't have like a CNC machine to cut any of this stuff, so using a drill press and a guide sort of works. Problem is it's still not like 100%. I've got them all within a couple of mils, correctly, but I still am not quite happy with it. So, God forbid, if I need to, I will just have someone cut that piece of metal. I've got the dimensions for it. If anyone wants it to use it themselves. I think the total length of the piece is 13.75 inches. Don't quote me on that. I think that's close. And I made it 6 inches wide total. That includes the flanges. Now, I mean, it's not, a square piece. Pieces at the end have to get cut as well, so that it fits. So once that's in place, this is all good. The only other thing, like I said, that I need to do with this is I'm going to add some nut plates on those side flanges so that the empty space between this slanted piece and the vertical piece get covered, right? Because there's going to be a lot of wiring going up through there. One of the reasons I'm doing this is besides the easiness of getting to them, is that the fuel system, right, now takes up a lot more space in the central tunnel. So routing the wires all the way back behind the vertical piece doesn't make sense, as there's a fuel filter in place and there's a bunch of other stuff. So this will allow me to bring the wiring up sooner, basically just right from in front of where the fuel selector is. Whew, that's a lot. But yeah, so the layout's good. I actually do have to add two more breakers. I'd forgotten I need a 1 amp breaker for the ELT. The ELT wiring is in place, which is happy, so I've got that. And I also need to add a 1 amp breaker for something else. I don't remember exactly what. Oh yeah, I've got a few things like the canopy release hatch micro switch and stuff like that. I'm gonna have just small breaker so that should they get run away, I don't want the wires to burn out. Especially that canopy stuff, that canopy release. Seeing where that wiring goes is a pain, which I will explain later. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and see you soon.